to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila in Thailand. Hello, Esther.
Hi, Alma. I'm Esther Adanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The Philippine Embassy in Wellington is currently monitoring the situation of close to 800 Filipinos in Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji after the eruption of an underwater volcano on Saturday.
The UN Security Council on Friday called for the immediate release of an Emirati flag vessel and its crew who have been held by Houthi rebels in Yemen since the beginning of January and the escalation of the situation. Some crew are from the Philippines, Myanmar, and Indonesia.
U.S. financial giant Citigroup said it will sell its consumer banking businesses in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam for $3.6 billion as it pushes ahead with global streamlining plans. First in our news, the Philippine Embassy in Wellington is now currently monitoring the situation of close to 800 Filipinos in Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji after the eruption of an underwater volcano on Saturday, that according to the Department of Foreign Affairs. In a statement on Sunday, the DFA said the eruption triggered tsunamis and strong waves, reached Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji, and concerned residents are moving to higher grounds. It added there were disruptions to communication systems in those areas. The massive underwater volcanic eruption in Tonga was so powerful it was recorded around the world, and it triggered a tsunami that flooded Pacific coastlines from Japan to the United States, according to scientists on Sunday. Dramatic satellite images show the long rumbling eruption of the Hunga Ha'apai volcano spewing smoke and ash in the air, with a thunderous roar heard 10,000 kilometers away in Alaska. The U.S. Geological Survey recorded Saturday's eruption as equivalent to a 5.8 magnitude earthquake at zero depth. But the full extent of the damage in Tonga was unclear Sunday, with communication lines down. A 4-foot wave swept ashore in the Tongan capital Nuku'alofa, with locals reporting they had fled to higher ground, leaving behind flooded houses, some with structural damage and with small stones and ash falling from the sky. Waves of around 1.2 meters hit along Japan's Pacific coast, with the Japan Meteorological Agency warning waves as high as 3 meters were possible. In New Zealand, more than 2,300 kilometers from Tonga, 120 people were evacuated from northern coastal areas and several boats destroyed when the huge wave crashed into a marina. Australia's popular beach, the Bondi Beach in Sydney, was briefly evacuated as a precaution, while in California, coastal streets in Santa Cruz were awash and closed to traffic. The National Weather Service Alaska reported the Alaska Volcano Observatory had recorded the eruption in Anchorage and Fairbanks, 6,000 miles from the volcano. Hunga Ha'apai, which lies about 65 kilometers north of Nuku'alofa, has a history of volatility. In recent years, it breached sea level during a 2009 eruption, while in 2015, it spewed so many large rocks and ash into the air that when they settled, a new island had formed 2 kilometers long by 1 kilometer wide and 100 meters high.
The Philippines will buy 32 new Blackhawk helicopters for more than $620 million. The Defense Secretary said Sunday in the nation's latest big-ticket purchase to upgrade its aging military capability. For the past decade, Manila has been trying to modernize its rundown military equipment featuring Vietnam War-era helicopters and World War II naval vessels used by the United States. The first of the 32 S-70I Blackhawks from a Polish firm owned by U.S. defense manufacturer Lockheed Martin will begin to arrive next year, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said on Facebook. He said the aircraft were needed for humanitarian assistance and disaster response. The lack of transport planes and helicopters have never been more acute during the pandemic and in the aftermath of Typhoon Odette, Lorenzana said, using the local name of Typhoon Rai, which left more than 400 people dead and caused widespread devastation when it hit the country in December. He said this was exacerbated by our aging UEs that have become uneconomical to maintain. The government last year completed an order of 16 S-70I Blackhawks to replace the Air Force's fleet of Bell UH-1H helicopters, commonly known as the UE, after fatal accidents. Many of them were acquired as surplus from the United States, Manila's longtime military ally. The entire Blackhawk fleet was grounded in June after an S-70I helicopter crashed during a nighttime training flight, killing all 6 on board. An investigation found it inadvertently entered a thunderstorm and the pilot suffered spatial disorientation or vertigo, as well as long-running insurgencies by communist and Islamist fighters. The Philippines faces growing Chinese aggression in the South China Sea.
And Thailand reported its first death due to the Omicron variant. We have an update from EBC Bureau Chief in ASEAN. Here's Crystal Mapa. Crystal.
Yes, Alma, Thailand reported its first death from the highly transmissible Omicron coronavirus variant. An 86-year-old woman from Songkhla who was bedridden and suffering from Alzheimer's disease had succumbed to the virus and was pronounced dead last Wednesday at Hat Yai Hospital, where she had been receiving treatment. Songkhla's Center for Medical Sciences confirmed she had been suffering from the Omicron strain. The health office told the media that she contracted the virus from her nephew who had returned from Phuket. Dr. Opas Karnkawinpong, Director General of the Department of Disease Control, said the woman had received 2 shots of the Pfizer vaccine but was still considered at risk due to her underlying health problems. Dr. Opas added that in light of this, the Public Health Ministry is trying to speed up the administration of booster shots to at-risk groups, as they have all been urged to receive their shots as soon as possible, he said. Spokesman for the Public Health Ministry, Rungrung Kitpati, said that even though Thailand had suffered its first death from the Omicron variant, the situation remains under control and the public remains urged to receive booster shots. The country registered 6,929 more cases during the previous 24 hours, the Public Health Ministry reported. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much for that update, Crystal. You take care and thank you for your time.
Likewise, Alma, reporting from Thailand, I am Crystal Mapa. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Malaysia's foreign minister has expressed concerns about Cambodia's prime minister visiting Myanmar without first consulting fellow Southeast Asian leaders, highlighting regional tensions in how to deal with the crisis-hit country. Last week, Cambodia's strongman ruler Hun Sen made the first trip by a foreign leader to Myanmar since a coup last year that ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's civilian government. Critics said the visit by Hun Sen, whose country holds the rotating chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, risks legitimizing the junta and undermining efforts to isolate generals. Speaking to reporters late Thursday, Foreign Minister Saifuddin Abdullah said Malaysia was of the opinion that Hun Sen has the right to visit Myanmar as head of government of Cambodia. However, we also feel that he has already assumed the chair of ASEAN, which he could have probably consulted the other leaders or the other ASEAN leaders and seek their views as to what he should do if he were to go to Myanmar. Malaysia has been among several ASEAN states alongside Indonesia, Singapore, and the Philippines, which have strongly criticized the military takeover. The bloc's foreign ministers were supposed to hold talks in Cambodia next week, but that meeting was postponed. Saifuddin downplayed suggestions this was due to tensions over Myanmar, insisting it was because of scheduling issues and coronavirus concerns. ASEAN has sought to help Myanmar, agreeing to a 5-point consensus last year aimed to defusing the crisis, but the generals have shown little sign of changing course. More than 1,400 civilians have been killed as the military crackdown on dissent, according to a local monitoring group.
Myanmar's ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi was indispensable to restoring democracy to the country, the Philippines. According the Philippine Foreign Minister said on Sunday, echoing condemnation of her recent sentencing by a junta court. Philippine Foreign Minister Teodoro Locsin broke ranks on Sunday, tweeting he had adopted as my own a statement by his Norwegian counterpart Anniken Huitfeldt that condemned the sentencing. Suu Kyi is indispensable in a democratic restoration that will pose no threat of anarchy, dissolution, and civil conflict, Locsin said, adding that Myanmar's armed forces have nothing to fear. Locsin also backed the recent visit to Myanmar by Cambodia's strongman ruler Hun Sen, the first by a foreign leader since the coup, highlighting regional tensions over how to deal with the crisis-hit nation. Critics said the visit by Hun Sen, whose country holds the rotating chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, risked legitimizing the junta and undermining efforts to isolate the generals. But Locsin said Hun Sen achieved headways and deserves wholehearted support. In October, the bloc took the highly unusual step of excluding junta chief Min Aung Hlaing from a summit in response to an ASEAN envoy being denied a meeting with Suu Kyi. But Hun Sen met the military leader during his visit and has insisted the trip could have a positive impact.
In other news, the UN Security Council on Friday called for the immediate release of an Emirati-flagged vessel and its crew who have been held by Houthi rebels in Yemen since the beginning of January and the de-escalation of the situation. The Saudi-led military coalition backing Yemen's internationally backed government against the rebels said the Rawabi was returning from a mission to set a field hospital and called the seizure an act of piracy. In a statement drafted by Britain and adopted unanimously, the 15-member Security Council demanded the immediate release of the vessel and its crew and underscored the necessity of ensuring the crew's safety and well-being. But Houthi official Hussein al-Azi said the Rawabi vessel was not carrying toys for children but weapons for extremists. The Iran-backed Houthis seized the ship on January 3 off the Red Sea port of Hodeidah along with the 11-member crew and then released a video which they said shows military equipment on board. The United Arab Emirates has described the Rawabi as a civilian cargo vessel. In a recent letter, the United Nations, the United Arab Emirates noted that Rawabi's crew consisted of 11 members, 7 Indians, India in a non-permanent member of the Security Council, and others from Ethiopia, Indonesia, Myanmar, and the Philippines.
Octa Research Senior Fellow Dr. Guido David said the growth of COVID cases in the National Capital Region has slowed to negative 1%, which could be decreasing, but trends need validation in the coming weeks. Now, the term positivity rate refers to the percentage of tests conducted that came out positive for COVID-19. Though slowly decreasing, a positivity rate of 50% means that 1 in every 2 tests will come out positive for COVID. He also explained that new cases in the region are close to peak if the number of fresh infections start to decrease by this week. If the region has limited testing capacity, Dr. David said the number of new cases will continue to hover around the same level until the downward trend happens. The World Health Organization said its benchmark recommendation for governments should be lower positivity rates to just 5% before opening an economy.
Now let's go over to Cambodia, where the Ministry of Health in the country said that during the first 3 days of booster dose campaign against COVID-19, some 66,390 people, including 31,481 women, have gotten their 4th doses. Leaders of the executive and legislative bodies, frontline medical team, civil servants, armed forces, UN officials, embassy staff, journalists, and so on are the priority groups for the 4th doses. The 4th dose campaign kicked off on January 14 in Phnom Penh. Pfizer vaccines donated by Australia are used for the campaign. Some 4.67 million of the total population of 16 million have so far received their 3rd jab, while 13.71 million have got the basic doses.
Meanwhile, foreigners in Thailand have expressed mixed reactions to a government plan to collect a 300 baht tourism fee. Now here's Veronica Carino for the details. Veronica, please tell us more.
Yes, Alma, good afternoon. The government's plan to collect a 300 baht tourism fee beginning in April caused foreigners in Thailand to express mixed feelings. Elza Pulumihani, a 46-year-old Indonesian tourist, told Thai media that she understands why the government wants to collect money from tourists. She questioned, however, whether the move would be transparent and whether the money would be spent efficiently for the benefits of the tourists. She was only in the kingdom for a week and would like the government to reconsider the plan. Disha Chakma, a 27-year-old Bangladeshi teacher, is unsure whether the accident insurance scheme will cover every tourist injured in a Thai accident. The tourist charge appears to be poorly thought out government policy with unanticipated and unpleasant consequences, said Philip Newman, a 38-year-old English national who has been in Thailand since last month. It's unclear whether the funds will reach their intended recipients, he said. However, he stated that he was willing to pay the price. On Wednesday, the government spokesman Thanakon Wanbongpong Shana stated that the proposal to collect the fee from tourists is being considered as a plan or as a part of the Tourism and Sports Ministry's tourism promotion plan. Foreign visitors arriving in Thailand by air would be charged a fee of 300 baht, which would be included in the price of their ticket. Tourists entering the kingdom by land or sea would be required to pay the fee to the immigration officials at the border. The funds, according to Mr. Tanakarn, will be used to develop tourist attractions, upgrade infrastructures, and fund accident insurance initiative for foreign visitors. Thailand anticipates 5 to 15 million foreign visitors this year, bringing in approximately 800 baht. This update is from Bangkok Post. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much for that update. Veronica, stay safe and keep us updated always.
Yes, Alma. Thank you. And likewise, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand, I am Veronica Carino, and we live in interesting times.
ASEAN in Focus, Esther and I will be back right after this.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome back. The government has advised netizens to be cautious after the Revenue Department's Twitter account was hacked by unknown attackers in Thailand. According to a Thai PBS World report, the hackers deleted nearly all previous tweets on the account and changed its name to Revenue/NFT. It's not yet known who was behind the attack, but NFT stands for non-fungible token in the world of cryptocurrencies. The attack comes as the Thai government confirms new tax measures targeting the crypto market. Following the cyber attack, the Revenue Department advised the public to be wary of any tweets appearing on its account. The department also notified the Anti-Fake News Center. The account now appears to have been restored, and the Revenue Department has instructed the Anti-Fake News Center to find those behind it.
Meanwhile, Indonesia opened its coronavirus booster campaign to public Wednesday as the country records rising infections driven by the Omicron variant. Indonesia is administering half doses for all of its approved vaccines, of which there is no precedent elsewhere in the world, according to COVID-19 Task Force spokesperson Siti Nadia Termizi. Let's watch this.
Pada dasarnya kan memang semua nanti akan mendapatkan booster. Sama seperti vaksinasi dosis pertama, semua akan mendapatkannya. Tapi memang harus dilakukan tahapan-tahapan. Nah, seperti yang kita tahu, lansia ini penerima tahapan pertama. Jadi memang kalau secara antibodi kan makin lama makin turun. Maka yang paling menurun terlebih dahulu adalah yang pertama kali mendapatkan, yaitu lansia. Ya, jadi sudah ada kombinasinya, sudah ada paketannya gitu ya. Bagi yang dosis pertama ada dosis keduanya Sinovac, itu mendapatkan vaksinasi boosternya boleh Pfizer, boleh AstraZeneca. Dan untuk yang mendapatkan vaksin pertama dan vaksin keduanya AstraZeneca, itu boosternya adalah Moderna. Itu juga sesuai penelitian, jadi dilakukan penelitian bahwa dengan menyuntikan setengah dosis, itu antibodinya tidak jauh bedanya dengan disuntikan satu dosis. Oleh karenanya dibuatlah kebijakan penyuntikan baik Pfizer ataupun AstraZeneca ataupun Moderna itu untuk booster adalah setengah dosis.
Ini kegiatan saya kan masih banyak, saya masih main tenis, saya masih lari, saya masih berorganisasi. Sehingga saya takutnya kalau saya tidak punya imunitas nanti saya bisa menularin orang atau saya sendiri juga sakit gitu. Jadi untuk mempertahankan imunitas itu saya...
The free shots will be given to the elderly and at-risk residents as a priority, but will be available to everyone who received their second dose 6 months prior, President Joko Widodo said on Tuesday after announcing the decision. The boosters will be administered as half doses, which a local study confirmed was sufficient protection against the virus due to the supply shortages, said Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin. Indonesia, the world's fourth most populous country with more than 270 million people, has struggled to procure enough vaccines for its residents since the onset of the pandemic. Indonesia uses Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and China's Sinovac for COVID-19 inoculations. Some countries, including the United States, are injecting half a dose of Moderna as a booster. Tarmizi said the decision to use half doses was based on a study conducted by the University of Indonesia and the Padjadjaran University in collaboration with the Health Ministry.
Back here in the country, Malacanang has reminded its call for local government units to consider house-to-house vaccination drives to get more senior citizens and persons with comorbidities vaccinated against COVID-19. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, acting presidential spokesperson, said providing vaccination services at home would provide convenience for these priority groups, especially those who have difficulty traveling to vaccination sites. Nograles acknowledged that some LGUs are already carrying out house-to-house vaccination drives, but noted that LGUs outside the Metro Manila and neighboring provinces would also have to do the same. He also emphasized the need for cooperation between the national and local governments as well as the general public to achieve the country's vaccination goals.
Surigao del Norte Governor Francisco Matugas has tested positive for COVID-19. Despite following strict health protocols, I am informing the people of Surigao del Norte that I tested positive for COVID-19, Matugas said in his Facebook account on Sunday afternoon. The governor has been active in relief operations in different towns in the province after the onslaught of Typhoon Odette in December 16 last year. Matugas said he will undergo isolation for a period of 7 to 10 days as advised by the doctor. The governor said he is asymptomatic. His wife, former Governor Sol Matugas, will also undergo the same number of days of isolation. He asked those who came in close contact with me to monitor their health status and be guided on appropriate steps to take.
And declaring there was no material misrepresentation by presidential aspirant Ferdinand or Bongbong Marcos Jr. when he filed his certificate of candidacy for the May polls, the COMELEC's 2nd Division dismissed on Monday one of the cases seeking to take him out from the race. The decision, penned by Commissioner Socorro Inting, said that following Supreme Court jurisprudence, material misrepresentation is something that affects the eligibility of a candidate. In this case, the COMELEC verdict on the case filed by Buena Fe and others seeking to cancel Marcos Jr.'s COC turned to the Court of Appeals decision on his tax case, which petitioners insisted the former senator misrepresented when he ticked the no box in the COC portion, asking if he had been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude. The 2nd Division noted that the CA decision on the tax case of BBM, arising from his failure to file income tax returns or ITRS in the 80s, did not contain any disqualification provision, according to COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez in a briefing. Hence, when Marcos Jr. checked no on the COC, there was no material misrepresentation. The 2nd Division also noted that failure to file an ITR is not a crime involving moral turpitude. Besides Inting, the other members of the 2nd Division are Commissioners Antonio Co and Ray Bulay.
The Department of Health, or DOH, is seeing a community transmission of Omicron coronavirus variant in the National Capital Region, although a peak in the number of cases is not expected until next month. In a televised public briefing on Saturday, DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere noted that local cases of Omicron variant have been detected despite a lag in the whole genome sequencing. Community transmission happens when the transmission of an infectious disease within a group is extensive. Let's listen in.
Ito pong nangyayari sa atin ngayon at nakikita nating sitwasyon, base po dun sa mga trends na ating nakikita. No? Ang National Capital Region po now averages 17,124 cases per day. This is comparing to about 1 week ago na 6,500 lang po ang ating average number of cases. As we see our cases, the initial case doubling time po ng National Capital Region and even the whole Philippines was at 2.2 days. Ibig sabihin, sa bawat araw po, nagdodoble ang numero ng kaso. No? Every 2 days, nagdodoble po siya. Pero ngayon, humaba naman po ang doubling time natin. Naging 4 na araw naman po, ngunit mataas pa rin ang pagpasok ng mga kaso. The National Capital Region now has 149,000 active cases. Nakikita po natin, base sa mga projections po ng ating mga eksperto at saka yung faster team natin, na patuloy pong tataas ang ating mga kaso. We are not seeing the peak of the cases yet. We are still yet to see the peak, no, na baka po mangyari sa dulo po ng buwan na ito or even later, about second week of February. At nakikita po natin na maaari pang magdoble ang numero ng active cases natin compared to today by that time of February 15 po.
And the news continues here in ASEAN in Focus. We will be back right after this.
Welcome back. U.S. financial giant Citigroup said it will sell its consumer banking businesses in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam for $3.6 billion as it pushes ahead with global streamlining plans. Singapore's United Overseas Bank, or UOB, will buy the franchises, which includes Citi's retail banking and credit card businesses. The total price of the acquisition is 4.9 billion Singaporean dollars or $3.6 billion. As part of the deal, around 5,000 Citi employees are expected to transfer to UOB, according to the lenders. The sale is part of Citi's plans to streamline its global operations and focus on institutional clients rather than consumer banking. The bank previously announced it was exiting consumer franchises in several markets across the Asia-Pacific and elsewhere. Mark Mason, Citi's chief financial officer, said that the sale of these 4 consumer markets, along with the previously announced transactions, demonstrate their sense of urgency to execute their strategic refresh. Wee Ee Chong, UOB's deputy chairman and chief executive officer, said the bank believes in Southeast Asia's long-term potential and they have been disciplined, selective, and patient in seeking the right opportunities to grow. The transaction is expected to be completed between mid-2022 and early 2024, depending on the progress of the regulatory approval process, according to Citi. Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam are among the Southeast Asia's biggest markets, with a combined population of more than 470 million people and home to a rapidly growing middle class.
growth of inflows from overseas Filipino workers or OFWs will be driven by the recovery of countries from another period of lockdowns as COVID-19 infections rise anew. On Friday, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP reported the 5.1% year-on-year jump of cash remittances in November 2021 to $2.502 billion while cumulative inflows increased by 5.2% to $28.43 billion. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation Chief Economist Michael Ricafort said in a report that remittance inflows to 2 months ago were the lowest in the past 6 months, but still sharply higher from the worst or lowest levels seen in April to May 2020 at the height of COVID-19 lockdowns or stay-at-home orders in many host countries around the world. BSP data show that cash remittances amounted to $2.64 billion in June 2021, while it reached $2.5 billion in April 2020 and $2.11 billion to the following months. Ricafort said OFW remittances are expected to get another hit after countries re-implemented stricter quarantine measures to address the fresh wave of COVID-19 infections.
Yes, the recovery is likely to continue, but against stronger winds, announced IMF's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva in an event hosted by the Center for Global Development in Washington, D.C. Georgieva expressed her concern over how this new wave of infections will affect divergence, inflation, and debt, and she's urging economies to assess how strong their defenses are against COVID-19 and how much policy space do they have to boost their businesses and support their households, especially the vulnerable ones. Let's listen in.
I would have liked very much to have a more optimistic outlook at the beginning of the year, but reality is we are looking into a somewhat weaker momentum of the recovery and higher uncertainties, more risks in 2022. To give you the perspective from the fund, already towards the end of the previous year, we were concerned that the recovery was weakening. Why? Because the two big engines of the world economy, the US and China, both were slowing down vis-a-vis projections from the summer. And now we also have Omicron. For us at the fund, it is not a surprise that there is a new wave. It has gone up dramatically during the pandemic, not surprisingly. We have never seen such a boost in debt levels since the Second World War. Now, if you take public and private debt collectively at 256% of GDP, that is particularly heavy on countries with weaker fundamentals and higher debt levels. And especially that concerns low-income countries. But if last year you would hear me talking about low-income countries, this year there are emerging markets that also would be in this category. Now, you put all this together and you recognize that it is a year in which, yes, the recovery is likely to continue, but against stronger winds. And one of these winds is something that we had in 2019, street protests, unrest. This is coming back, and it would make the life of policymakers much more complicated.
Now, the IMF is currently working on a Resilience and Sustainability Trust, which would be an addition to the instruments of the IMF. And for this instrument, the fund is proposing adding pandemic preparedness as an element of eligibility for countries. The trust would be somewhere between 30 to 50 billion US dollars and may go even higher depending on the demand and how successful it is.
The chairman of the House Committee on Ways and Means said strong growth and investment in the agriculture sector will be the key to ensuring that the Philippine economy sustains high economic growth levels this year. Albay Representative Joe Salceda made a statement during the weekend as the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, warned that emerging economies such as Philippines could face economic turbulence following developments in U.S. monetary policy and the surge in COVID-19 Omicron variant cases. Salceda said the strength of agricultural sector will determine general inflation and wage pressures. In a post titled Emerging Economies Must Prepare for Fed Tightening, IMF economists Stefan Daninger, Kenneth Kang, and Helene Poirson said policymakers may need to react by pulling multiple policy levers depending on the actions of U.S. Fed as well as challenges in their respective countries. Given the risk that this could coincide with faster Fed tightening, emerging economies could prepare for potential bouts of economic turbulence, IMF warned.
The National Capital Region will remain under Alert Level 3 until the end of January amid the rise in coronavirus disease cases. Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chair Benhar Abalos explains why the Metro Manila mayors don't see the need to raise the alert level during this period. Let's listen in.
Yung po mga sitwasyon na yun ay tama lamang sa Alert Level 3. Una-una yung metrics, 51% lang HCUR. Pangalawa, talagang halos walang makikitang tao sa kalye noon, no? Halos kokonte. Talagang alas 5 ng hapon kahapon ay halos kokonte ang mga sasakyan at ang mga tao sa mall halos walang tao. Tandaan po natin ang alert levels ay ginagawa upang makontrol, no? Primary purpose ay upang makontrol ang daloy ng tao. Tingnan ito sa Robinson's Ermita, halos halos mamaya ipapakita ng camera natin yung iba't ibang lugar, no? Para makita nila yung naging basihan ng mayor kung bakit ganoon ang naging desisyon po nila. Kaya yung sinasabing intensyon na magtaas ng alert levels ay hindi ka pa man nagtataas, ang ating mga kababayan ay nagkakaroon ng self-discipline na sila na mismo ang nasa-self-regulate sa sarili nila.
Under Alert Level 3, establishments or activities shall be allowed to operate or be undertaken at a maximum of 30% indoor venue capacity for fully vaccinated individuals only and 50% outdoor venue capacity, provided that all workers of the establishments are fully vaccinated against COVID. Intrazonal and interzonal movement are still allowed. However, reasonable restrictions may be imposed by the LGUs, which should not be stricter as those prescribed under higher alert levels and subject to the oversight, monitoring, and evaluation of their respective regional IATF.
Meanwhile, Vietnam expects to have 28 airports, including 14 international ones by 2030, according to a draft master plan on developing airports nationwide for the 2021 to 2030 period, with a vision until 2050. Under the plan, which has been submitted to Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh for approval, the airports will serve about 275.9 million passengers and handle some 4.1 million tons of cargo a year. The Ministry of Transport will prioritize investments in some major airports like Noi Bai in Hanoi and Tan Son Nhat in Ho Chi Minh City, upgrade and effectively utilize the present 22 airports and build 6 others, namely Long Tan, Nasan, Lai Chau, Sapa, Quan Ninh, and Phan Thiet. By 2050, the number of airports nationwide is expected to increase to 31, including 14 international ones. Prime Minister Chin asked the Ministry of Transport to review the planning of Da Nang and Chu Lai airports to avoid wasteful of resources and soon complete the planning scheme for approval.
An Indonesian college student has become an internet sensation after trade in the digital rights to his selfies fetch more than $1 million on a platform for non-fungible tokens. Sultan Gustaf Al-Ghazali, who studies computer science at a university in the central city of Semarang, has taken a picture of himself sitting in front of his computer almost every day for the last 5 years. And he intended to use the collection of nearly 1,000 selfies to create a time-lapse video for his graduation day. But after learning about blockchain technology, the 22-year-old decided to upload the photos to NFT trading platform OpenSea under the title Ghazali Every Day. He said he was thinking it might be funny if one of the collectors collected his face. He said he never thought anybody would want to buy the selfies, which is why he only priced them at $3. But on Friday, one selfie was available for 0.247 of the cryptocurrency Ether, or which is $806 after demand shot up. Ghazali started to upload his selfies in late December, but it wasn't until a celebrity chef snapped some up last week and promoted Ghazali on his social media account that sales took off. In the next few days, more than 400 people bought ownership of his expressionless photos. As of Friday afternoon, Ghazali's collection had reached a total trade volume of 317 Ether, equivalent to more than $1 million. And he said, to be honest, he has not gotten the courage to tell his parents because he said they would be wondering where he got the money from. So Ghazali, who dreams of opening his own animation studio one day, said he plans to invest the money and will continue to take daily selfies until he continues or finishes college. Thank you very much, Esther, for keeping me company today here on ASEAN in Focus.
Thank you also, Alma. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. From ABC Thailand Bureau, this is Esther Adanga, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on ASEAN in Focus. Stay in the news because we live in interesting times.